a lot of that recently, people from even outside the country buying in Canada. And I know that there was some big announcements last week regarding foreign buyers tax. Maybe you can just touch on that, David, quickly, because that was big headlines
Yeah,
everywhere.
for sure. So the it's been in Vancouver and the Greater Toronto area for a while now. And the GTA was at 15%. Basically, any foreign buyer purchasing in the GTA it was an additional due at closing 15% foreign buyer tax as of last week, the 29th of March. The provincial government changed it for the entire province and increased it actually to 20%. So any foreign buyer purchasing any property within Ontario, it's an additional 20% at closing, which obviously changes things pretty dramatically. It's a very small portion of people that purchase, but really this pertains to if you're not a permanent resident or citizen, that you're paying it. So anyone on even student visa, work permit, things like that, you're still deemed in that same category. So it'll be interesting to see how that, it obviously didn't slow anything down in the Toronto market from when they instituted it. They've had it in Vancouver as well for a long period of time. But it'll be interesting to see how markets like Ottawa absorb that. And a very real scenario that I had came across, this past week is a client of mine. The daughter, they're applying for permanent residency. The daughter and her siblings had all purchased new build homes prior to the pandemic in the same development, a new release. The father is from overseas. He wanted to purchase one of the homes as well and kind of keep it as a rental until he retired. And the goal was for him to move here as well, where his kids were. Minto wouldn't let him sign the purchase agreement because he was not in Canada. And so the daughter signed it on his behalf, like in her name, and the Minto was allowing them to transfer it when he was back in Canada, prior to closing. So the intention was that closing now is in June, that he would come a few weeks before closing and stay here and sign the transfer or the assumption of the purchase agreement, etc. Long story short, he now is pretty screwed. And I had advised him last week that because she signed the purchase agreement, so if you're a foreign buyer and you signed a purchase agreement prior to March 29th, this tax would not apply to you. However, in this case, the daughter signed it, who's a permanent resident. He did not sign it prior to 29th. So if he goes and assumes this purchase agreement, he's going to be subject to that foreign buyer tax. So I did tell him last week that not only are you buying as a rental, so you have to pay the HST on closing and apply for that rebate, after a year, but now an additional 20% on top of that. So say it was a 33%, 33% on top of the purchase price, out of pocket on top of the 35% minimum down that he's having to put. So I did let them know about that this past week and kind of try and figure out. I mean, we'll probably end up having to close with an alternative lender, but it'll be a heck of a lot cheaper than paying the $113,000 in this foreign buyer tax.
Yeah, and what do you think just with these changes? I mean, it's a huge kind of pill to swallow up front. How do you think this will impact the rental market as well? Just because, all of these are obviously investment properties. These people aren't living here typically, right? They're buying them, like you said, kind of remotely or what have you. So what sort of impact do you think this will have on the rental market across Canada, basically?
I don't know how it'll impact. I mean, really right now, I think we're going to definitely see the rental, investor market kind of dry up. We're getting squeezed right now anyways, with rates being so high, with fixed rates touching 4%. For rentals right now with TD Bank or Scotia, for instance, they're over 4%. This really hurts, cash flow on a rental and what makes sense. At the same time, I think that'll also drive rental rates as well to make them come in line where you can actually carry the property. But it didn't really, it hasn't affected Toronto and hasn't affected Vancouver. So I don't know that there'll be that much of an impact, and just such a small portion of people that it does affect. So yeah, I think right now it'll be hard to kind of delineate what is being affected in the investor market from the rate increase versus this tax coming in, because it's such a small portion of people that are foreign buying investment properties or buying property here. yeah, I think it'll take time, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. It would be an interesting stat to see, like you said, like what percentage of buyers, and I'm sure the numbers are there, I just don't have them off the top of my head, but what percentage of buyers of investment properties are foreign buyers, like what that actual number looks like, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have seen it before, and I want to say it's like less than 1%, but I don't want to. We'll have to do some digging and circle back on that next week. I don't want to start throwing out random numbers, but
Yeah.
I do remember it being a very inconsequential number, but and that's why I don't think that it affected the Vancouver or Toronto market. And it's more of just like a headline grabber and kind of political move than anything.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe because we'd really like that.